Thank you very much. My name is Rob Anderson. I'm the founder and CEO of Convergent Media Group here in Pula, also in New York, also in Moscow, Russia, also in Nizhny Novgorod, Russia. I want to thank you for inviting me here. I'm originally from Santa Maria, California in Santa Barbara County. The place where I grew up was very, very similar to Pula. Right there on the shore, we had about the same size of agricultural community as you guys have. And when I started my very first business at a very, very early age. And I always knew I wanted to travel internationally and see the world. And in the past 30 years, I've lived and worked in about 35 different countries. So the question I keep getting asked, even today, is why Pula? Why did I come to Pula? I was first introduced to Pula from some people in Moscow who worked for me, who were originally from here. And they kept talking, and frankly, they wouldn't shut up about this place. They said how wonderful it is, what great people we have, and we have universities, we have very talented young people. I thought, okay, great, interesting. So it took them about 2 years to convince me to come for a visit, and that was 2008. So basically, what I wanted to talk to you today about is I've been asked to give a little bit of information about what are we doing, what is our company doing, a little bit about our past, a little bit about our present, and something about our future. And that does involve Pula as well. So in terms of the past, my background is, I've been in media most of my life. I was working for a company called Warner Music, which was a record label. Then I worked for a company called Viacom that owns MTV, and my team opened up MTV in Russia. And media has been something that I've had a very bird's eye view to see how media works internally, how to work with clients, how clients work with each other and their ad agencies globally. And that experience gave me something very, very unique. I got to see how ad agencies are building their relationships with clients and how they actually serve their clients. When we first came to Pula, we had already existed in Moscow, and our office in Moscow has been in business since 2001. So when we started in Moscow, we had one person, just me. I left my team at MTV. I had a great vice president job, and I chose to pretty much leave all that behind and to start a business using my international knowledge, using my knowledge of clients, my knowledge of the advertising agency business, and to basically begin this company that now serves multiple clients around the world. The reason I started the company was I saw how we at MTV, we were getting screwed by our ad agencies. We had an ad agency in New York City, which was the headquarters of our company at MTV, and they would charge us for doing a piece of work. Then our London office, MTV Europe, asked for, we need you to do some work for us, which was essentially the exact same work. And I saw the ad agency in London would charge us again the very same work. A little bit of tweaking, a little bit of changes, but essentially the same work. Then we get to opening up MTV in Russia, and we go to the local ad agency, which is this part of the same company, and they do the exact same work, but they charge us again. So I saw how we got charged 3 times for essentially the same work. So when we began CMG, what I wanted to do, the principle was I wanted to be able to actually reach out to these big international companies and to start showing them how we can actually provide them with service without charging them 3 times. And to be able to actually create one central agency who can actually deliver for the entire world. Instead of having 250 advertising agencies, 250 offices with 250 accountants and 250 managing directors, and renting 250 offices and having 250 lawyers, all this is replication of cost, but there's no value for the client. If you centralize everything, then you actually are building a relationship with your global client with the same team doing the same thing. So in 2001, I left MTV and started CMG. So Convergent Media Group, when we started, the concept was we're going to have our agency, one agency building a relationship with all of our global clients. I leveraged all of my relationships, even from the music business, from MTV, among all the different advertising agencies. All of our clients at MTV, because MTV, we had the biggest of the big clients, everything from Gillette and Procter & Gamble to Nestle and Coca-Cola, Pepsi-Cola. So we had all of the very biggest clients in the world. We were able to actually build that relationship, and almost immediately in Moscow, we had a couple of global projects where we were delivering for multiple countries. This was a great opportunity for our team in Moscow, because a lot of them, even though Moscow is 18 million people in one city, at the time, and even now, especially now that Moscow, Russia has a bit of a crisis, right now the biggest challenge is to actually be perceived as an international hub where international global level quality is actually being delivered. Kind of hard to do that. With Moscow, it's a big challenge. Even though it's a bit of a metropolis, there's not a lot of Western companies actually coming into Moscow right now, and it's a lot more difficult now to convert rubles into dollars profitably, because the ruble has lost more than 50% of its value in the past 18 months. So when I was working in Moscow, the next question was, how do we expand? We wanted to keep our centralized approach, but at the center of every business is one main concept: talent. We need to find great talent. And we have some talented people in Moscow. But when I decided that I wanted to expand the company, we had a couple of choices. There's a lot of talent in New York, that's for sure. Lots of talent. But it's talent that wouldn't allow us to actually create that global scope that we're looking for. So the place that we chose was Pula. We looked at Poland, we looked at Czech Republic, we looked at Hungary, we looked at all the natural places where international businesses go to find talent. The talent we chose to hire and the talent we chose to grow was right here in Pula. We have people from all over Croatia working for us, but the most exciting thing for me as a business person who's lived and worked all over the world is the fact that the talent that I found here is eager and hungry for new knowledge. When you give somebody an opportunity to sit down and have an opportunity to work with 60 different countries from Pula, Croatia, it's a really rare opportunity. And the thing is, I come from Santa Barbara County, California. Even in Santa Barbara County, California, being able to work with all those countries is very, very rare. But when we made the choice to come here, we started building the relationships with universities, with students for internship programs. And this was the exciting thing for me, is that we've gotten so many young people. A lot of them are your peers. A lot of them are people who are currently working for us and also studying with you. And we have opportunities to travel. We have opportunities to work with literally the biggest brands in the world. Right now, in production, about 2 kilometers from here, we have in production projects for over $50 billion brands, and it's all happening right here. So this centralized concept that I originally created in Moscow, it works here. And since the people that we found in Pula are, they have not only the talent, but they have experience in languages. They have experience in business, especially from your faculty. And they've got a good understanding of what is international business. I've got 2 degrees in international business, and this is the only thing I've ever wanted to do, is to build a business that would have global impact. And it's pretty interesting when I'm traveling with some of the people, some of your peers, when we're traveling to our clients in New York, in California, in London, and people want to know about the team in Pula because they like working with them. The people in our office in Pula have great talent, and they're creative. This is something that has come partially from your school. So this is our goal, to continue to build a relationship with your university, to start hiring more people, to try to source the talent here. And now a little bit about the future. We have just quadrupled our turnover. So our revenue over the past 12 months has gone up almost 400 times, 400%. Our team is, we've got 75 people now. This time last year, we were 15 people. So we're expanding hugely. We're spending a lot of time in terms of investing. When we make profit, very different from most other foreign companies you'll see in any market in the world that come into a country, use its resources, use its talent, hire its people, and they hire the people to make profit. And then they take the profit out of the country. We have invested 100% of our profit from when we opened up in Pula in 2008 when we started here. 100% of the profit has been reinvested back into the community. So we're taking the money and we're reinvesting it back in the students that we're hiring, in the facilities, expanding our offices, etc. So in terms of the future, we've been selected, competitively selected, to work with one of the biggest pharmaceutical companies in the world. They have selected our team. They've been here 3 or 4 times. And out of all of the companies, I think that they were looking at 75 different agencies. Most of them were part of the big advertising agency holding companies. Out of all that, all those competitors, we actually won their business. And we didn't win just a piece of advertising business, making a couple of websites, making some apps. We won their global business. And it was based on the strength of the team right here in Pula. So among you here in Pula is world-class talent and world-class experience. And this is something you guys can learn from. This is something that I'm committed to continue investing in. And I'm hoping that I'll see some of you in the future. So we have a little bit more time, and I wanted to leave a little bit time at the end for some questions, if anybody has any questions. Not you, you're not allowed to ask questions. Yes?
What difficulties did you find in opening your business in Croatia?
I'm sorry?
Sorry. What kind of difficulties did you find in opening your business here in Croatia and in Istria, in Pula?
Okay. What kind of problems or difficulties did I have? You know the song, the Frank Sinatra song, New York, New York? If you can make it there, you can make it anywhere. Well, I've lived and worked for 18 years in Moscow, Russia. New York is for wimps. Moscow, if you want to learn difficulty, if you want to learn bureaucracy and corruption, if you want a PhD in corruption, come to Moscow. No, Bosnia, I don't think so. I've been to Bosnia, and those people were very friendly compared to Russians. Didn't work in Bosnia, no.
That's why I'm talking.
Well, but
Try to work in Bosnia.
okay.
For
Ah, okay. Well, then we have to go back in history for that. So I didn't have, compared to Russia, I had almost zero problems establishing a business in Istria or establishing a business in Croatia. Everything was very, very straightforward. Now, mind you, I've lived and worked in Poland. I've lived in Russia. I've worked in Hungary and Czech Republic. I've lived and worked all over the eastern part of Europe. I didn't find anything terribly difficult that would prevent me or make me not want to be here. And in fact, when I come up against an obstacle, that never stops me. I'm a Scorpio, and I'm very stubborn. And if you tell me I can't do something, I will do it, and I will overcome the challenge. I had a stepfather who told me that I wasn't allowed to buy a bass guitar because I was a musician and I wanted to play bass. And at 13 years old, he told me I couldn't buy a bass guitar. Within 9 months, I owned a company that produced bass guitars. So I didn't buy any, and I kept his word. I didn't buy one. I made them, and I started selling them to other people. And I still didn't have to buy it because I made them. And that's the whole point about inspiration and trying to overcome obstacles. For me, the whole idea of this conference is the Inspire Me conference. Where do you find inspiration? As a Scorpio, I see inspiration in a different way. My inspiration very often is, if you show me a challenge, I will do anything to overcome it. So I reject the idea that something is going to be difficult. Yeah, there probably is some bureaucracy here, but you don't have people, when you post a profit in your company, you don't have people come to your business and ask you for 20% of your business with guns, like happens in Russia. So I really like working here. The people are very similar to the people that I grew up with in California, which is why I say that Istria, for me, is the California of Europe. Because where do you have Silicon Valley? That's California. Innovation is happening in California. Digital innovation is happening in California. It's also happening here. Any other questions? Yes?
So what kind of people are you looking for your company? What would be the most ideal candidate?
We have so many different options and so many different opportunities. In general, I'm looking for talented people, and that's why I repeated this a couple times today. Talent is not just talent in marketing or talent in finance or talent in programming or digital. We don't do a lot of programming here, but we still need technically oriented people because everything we do is digital. The reason we're called Convergent Media Group is because all media is converging into digital. Everything is digital now. Even the printed catalogs you see of products, that started out as digital now. So what kind of people are we looking for? We're looking for people who are talented and can see things in a way, how do I say this? They can solve problems on their own. I'm looking for mini entrepreneurs. And that doesn't mean I'm looking for somebody who's going to create a business. I want somebody who can solve problems. And that's what, to me, that's what university is. You go to a class, and every day your professor gives you problems, and you have to solve them. Then you have a midterm exam, and you have to solve those problems. And then you have a final exam at the end of every semester for each of your classes. That is another set of problems you have to overcome. And then you have your entire degree. And so for 4 or 5 years you're studying, and that is a whole bunch of different problems you have to overcome. And that is what I'm looking for, somebody who can successfully solve problems, because that's all I see is business is solving problems. We have time for one quick question. One more question. Yes?
Which things you need to give up to achieve success in your life?
Say it again?
Which things you need to give up?
That's my favorite question. Okay. I just turned half a century old, and I do not have a wife because I'm traveling every 9 or 10 days somewhere else. So relationships are something you give up. I don't have children because time to actually have children, even make children, that's time that usually I don't have a lot of time of. But on the other hand, I get to travel the world for my job. I live in 4 different homes at different points throughout the year. I get to work with some of the most talented people, both my clients. I'm working with the best of the best and the biggest of the biggest clients. The single biggest advertiser on earth is our main client. And we have projects, we have dozens of projects every month for them. So what did I have to give up? Yeah, I had to give up a bit of a personal life, but I got to work at MTV. I got to work in the movie business. I got to work in the music business. I still have a band in Moscow and I'm still performing. Yeah, I gave up a family, but I've gotten so much more in return. And the most important thing for me, for a day-to-day life that I get in return, that for me is more important than the family or children or other things that I've given up, is that I get to work with talented people who surprise me and impress me every day that I show up to work. So for me, it's a pretty fair trade-off. Is that it? Okay, thank you very much.